It would be a...
Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show, where I'm very happy to have a friend here in studio. John Goodwin is here with Galaxy Press. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Joe. Great to be here in Park City.
Yeah, this beats the heck out of talking via Skype, but we still like that because it means we get to keep up with you and what's going on with Galaxy Press, and it's been an exciting year.
It's been very exciting.
Yeah.
And when we were here last year, we talked about the release of Battlefield Earth, which was a monumental release for us. We hit #1 in the United States for both the book and the audiobook.
Right. Re-release, we should say.
Re-release, right, because originally released in 1980.
Yeah.
And so throughout the whole year, we've been, selling the book, selling the whole idea of people reading is actually what we're trying to do as a publisher.
Yeah.
And what's very exciting for us is that we published the fiction works of L. Ron Hubbard. And one thing that, we talked about him having a release the book Battlefield Earth earlier on, but what actually came of this was in 1930s and 40s, L. Ron Hubbard was one of the most popular writers of fiction in America.
A very prolific writer. He
was prolific.
Churning out a book a day sometimes. Kind of amazing.
It might seem like that, yeah. He was writing like 100,000 words a month. And we have this book here, Master Storyteller, which pretty much goes over the overview of all the different books that he wrote. But as a writer of fiction, he wrote in mystery, western, adventure, science fiction, fantasy, and all the different genres. Gave him an audience that when he went into finally writing science fiction, they were able to appreciate the fact that his ability to write with realism, he was originally an adventure writer, and being able to write with that realism that brought science fiction to what we now know as the golden age.
Right. I have to say about L. Ron Hubbard, because we've had the opportunity, I've had the chance to come down and spend some time at his library and at Galaxy Press, and some time to spend with among all of those books that he's written and articles as well. And what was always impressive to me wasn't just that he was writing about adventure, it was the fact that he was living it first.
Right.
Which is what I think it really makes it so that it's so much more attainable and makes it feel like it's part of what you, part of your experience too, as you read it as a reader.
Yeah, he was. at the time he was America's youngest Eagle Scout. He had just turned 13 when he became Eagle. He was obviously he was a veteran of World War II. He was a Navy lieutenant.
Right.
He was a master mariner. He was licensed to sail any ocean in the world, and he was also a member of the Explorers Club, a very famed club of explorers. The guys that went on the moon.
Right.
They're members of the Explorers Club. That's one of the flags that doesn't get promoted, but that's also on the moon too, the Explorers Club. So he flew.
How about that?
He flew the flag 3 times, and so with all his experience, it gave him a lot of fodder for his stories.
Yeah.
And so when he was brought in by Street and Smith, which is the publisher at the time, which took over a new publication called Astounding, and they had the editor on board and said, look, so take everything that this author writes, because we're going to change the face of science fiction to make it, instead of the ray guns and robots, to add people to it, which is what was done. And so the various stories, there's one that if I can show it here.
Yeah, absolutely.
A Matter Manna, for example, is one of the ones that was written. Beyond All Weapons was one of the first stories ever written that discussed the time dilation theory, which was a very major, at that time, breakthrough when he first studied it at George Washington University, the whole thing from Einstein's
theory of relativity.
Mm-hmm. So this is one of the first stories that ever addressed that whole subject.
Wow.
So that was the whole thing of that changing of science fiction that went from science fact to, like, I wonder if we can make this happen. And that's what he was able to do when that golden age was really going on. And he describes it, well, then it wasn't golden age, it was just a lot of amazing ideas that were being developed.
You know, I love these books because they are written very much like the radio plays of the time, the golden age of radio, kind of coming full circle at that point with great writers, with the fact that we were moving towards film as well and television. Things were changing dramatically, but yet the storytelling being the center part of that, L. Ron Hubbard was right at the heart.
He was. And even on the release of these books newly in the last 10 years or so, Publishers Weekly stated that he was one of the mainstays of popular fiction of the 20th century. And so, as one of the popularizers of the one of the most popular writers of the 20th century, he then, in celebration of 50 years as a writer, come out and wrote Battlefield Earth,
which is epic in proportion. I mean, this is a thick book. What is it? 1,000 and 1,300 something pages. So, good grief, that's a lot.
It's a whole lot.
Yeah, we've got a photo here as well. We're going to show you of the cover. And this being the 21st century edition, this expanded content includes not only the author interview, but a discussion guide for teachers.
Right.
This is particularly awesome because, as you and I have talked about, this book has become, for many people, generational. Which you're seeing at Comic-Con, and we're excited about this weekend.
Very.
You know, we're going to see a dad come in with their son or their daughter and say, "This is a good book, one I read. It inspired me to read more," and they're going to be buying that book for their kid.
Yeah, a lot of the people that are now parents read the book originally when they were just teens. 13, 14. Right. Some are 12 years old. But it's also a story that we find a lot of the military really love this story.
Carry that one around in your big pocket.
Exactly, big pocket, your duffel bag. Yeah. Exactly. But one thing that's really good for us here in Salt Lake City is that it's a very literate community. Yeah. And this is why I love Salt Lake City.
We love to read, and we sure love to write too.
Yeah. So with this, being able to bring out this book, and this discussion guide makes it possible for those who are trying to get into science fiction to be able to like, how can I read this book and what can I expect to get out of it? We have STEM teachers that have very much used this because of the science in the book that can be created right now that they're able to do with their students. Wow,
I love that, but I have to admit, that I am a little bit of a sucker for the audiobook. As much as I would love to sit down and go through this over the course of a summer on a nice beach somewhere, the truth is I still have to work. So I have these long commutes, and I am a big fan of the audiobooks. This one particularly my favorite, and not just me, a lot of people say this because you guys cast it, and there are a whole lot of characters in the audiobook of Battlefield Earth.
We have 67 actors performing 198 characters. We created over 3 hours of original music, and over 150,000 sound effects went into it.
Wow.
And what's really great about this one too, which is different than, we wanted to raise the bar in the area of audiobooks, which proved out when we won the Audio Award, which is the top honor that's given to audiobooks just recently at the awards ceremony in New York. And the idea on this was not just to have the sound of a spaceship, or if you hear sometimes in audiobooks, if you hear car, it's a car,
right?
Or if you hear gun, it's a gun, or it's a plane. What we do is we actually get the right sound for that item, the specific sound. Yeah. So if the gun that's being shot is a 30-06, it's a 30-06 you're going to hear.
Wow.
If it's a pistol, it's a pistol. In some of our audiobooks where you have the subways in New York City, we went to New York City, went down and recorded the subways, the taxis on Fifth Avenue, so that you are getting that exact sound. On the aliens, which is obviously this is science fiction, we used more synthesized sounds. So you were able to distinguish the aliens and alien sounds are synthesized, whereas humans are the earthy sounds, the real sounds. So it just makes it just a whole tour de force. So that's why we won the award for marketing, because of the quality of the audiobook. It raised the standards such that it increased the number of people listening to audiobooks.
Well, you raised the standards in a lot of ways, including when the book was released, a crashed spaceship right on Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah.
That was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
But of course, the character as well, who actually might make an appearance on the program tomorrow, so you want to stay tuned for that. But that is what Comic-Con is all about. And of course, if you want to meet the character, if you want to see more about the book, you're going to want to head to Comic-Con this weekend.
Exactly. This will be our fifth time at Comic-Con, either FanX or the Salt Lake City Comic-Con. So we're very excited to be here again.
You know, what I have to say about all of this, of course, is that Galaxy Press very fortunate to have such a known quantity as L. Ron Hubbard, because you can do amazing things, which you've done with almost a guarantee of success, and you've certainly seen that. It has been very exciting. And what that also means is that with that ability and that guaranteed success. You could look at new authors, and I'm excited that when we come back, we'll be talking about that as we talk about writers and illustrators of the future and the L. Ron Hubbard legacy right after this. Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show, where we're continuing our conversation with John Goodwin of Galaxy Press. And I got to say, I'm excited for the news as well of the Battlefield Earth most recent edition that you put out. You have another award just from this one alone.
Right, it released in the last 2 weeks, and it hit #1 in the United States of science fiction mass market, so we're very excited about that.
Wow. So yeah, yet again, another award for Battlefield Earth. When you take it as a whole, it's got to be one of the most awarded books out there, I'm guessing.
It works for me.
Impressive, yeah. That is just outrageous. But you know, that's something that's really great because, as I mentioned, you have L. Ron Hubbard. You are able to put out all of his books. You're able to put out more audio and do more, which means that legacy, the ability to go after and continue his legacy with other authors becomes a reality, which is what Writers of the Future is all about. He really always wanted to make sure that other people were writing and that people had much to read.
That's right.
And we found that in Utah we've got some writers that have a lot to say and have ended up in several of these Writers of the Future's volumes.
Yeah, we checked, and we've had 20 winners from Utah.
Wow.
More than any area in the world.
That's amazing.
With our 3 judges also from Utah, we've had...
That helps.
Yes, yeah. We have Orson Scott Card.
Right.
Dave Wolverton. And Brandon Sanderson, all brilliant people, but amazing authors.
Indeed, and they've all won at one point or other.
Well, Orson Scott Card said, "I wish it was around when I started."
Yeah, he didn't get to. Yeah.
But he's got his book on writing, which he says, "Be sure you enter Writers of the Future."
Right.
Dave Wolverton won the contest. He was our grand prize winner, I think, for Volume 3. That was like 30 years ago. This was Volume 33. And with that, his career launched. And then Brandon Sanderson was a finalist. He's written 3 short stories in his career. One of them he submitted to Writers of the Future, became a finalist. And what he told me was that this contest gave him that vote of confidence that he needed.
Right.
He'd been writing for several years and hadn't had any breaks. And he'd written novel after novel after novel and wasn't selling. So he was beginning to doubt whether he was going to continue on, pursuing a career as a writer. So when he got his acknowledgement from Writers of the Future that he was a finalist, he went, wow, somebody's finally acknowledged what I'm doing. And it gave him that little bit of extra push to pursue. And it was right after that that he sold his first novel, and literally the rest is history. He's now one of the most popular fantasy writers in the world.
That's amazing. And we have to acknowledge the fact that, as you mentioned, many of these writers from Utah have had the benefit of the fact that not only did they get a jump start in their career by being published, but more importantly, they were published in a New York Times bestseller. That is impressive. So let's kind of give people an idea of the contest itself. Each year, this contest begins anew, and you look for 12, is it, authors and 12 illustrators.
Correct. So right now, the end of the contest year is the end of this month, so people can still get their entries in for the writer contest or illustrator contest. And so at the end of September, when year 34 ends, year 35 begins on October 1st and proceeds, so that we have 4 3-month periods. So every 3 months, 3 winners are chosen of the writers contest and of the illustrators contest.
Wow.
And we have another winner this year from Salt Lake City.
That's exciting.
And it's a first because it's the wife of one of our other winners from Salt Lake City.
How about that?
So that's very cool. So hopefully, we're hoping that maybe on Saturday when we're, if you come to the Comic-Con, we can have them there and we can introduce them
as well.
Meet them as well.
We're looking forward to that for sure. Now, one of the things that I think is exciting to talk about for sure is the fact that illustration has become so much more a part of books. It was once a time when you probably looked to a stock image place to come up with a book cover or something like like that. And so often now we've got illustrators, especially with science fiction and fantasy, creating work specifically for those books. And that is why now celebrating more of the illustrators has become so popular. And boy, I gotta tell you, last time I was at Writers of the Future and Illustrators of the Future, I spent more of my time with the illustrators, and I couldn't help myself because it was amazing.
Right, and so that was the black and white you just saw there.
Show some of the
now
color.
There's the color of that same image there.
How about that?
So that's the color
beautiful.
of that.
So we've seen so many incredible pieces of work. This is probably one of my favorites, arguably, right here.
That was the
Grand Prize winner from this last year. Yeah, and I just was amazed.
He's from Poland.
Yeah, we had people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And I was kind of just blown away by this, and I found myself spending way more time with the artist. But you know, we have to remember that all of this is art. The writing is art. The illustration is art, and L. Ron Hubbard has done a heck of a job of making sure that we get to celebrate that with new people getting their opportunity to rise to fame.
Right. The way it actually, you know, like I said, this is volume 33 that we were just going over there. It actually began the year after Battlefield Earth was originally published, and in celebration of the 50 years as a writer. The Writers of the Future was an extension of that because of his name in science fiction. He wanted to be able to lend a helping hand and provide basically a leg up for aspiring writers. And at the point, it was, you know, getting some of his writer buddies together to help on this thing, to put it together, and they're the ones who judge it. And right now, you've got the top names of science fiction and fantasy who are the contest judges. I named 3 of them already.
Yeah.
But there's, you know, several more.
Oh yeah, I was going to say we've got arguably one of the biggest Star Wars writers of all, who acts as typically a judge and often a teacher.
Right. Well, you're referring to Kevin Anderson?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Amazing talent.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe I was in the same room. It's kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
But astounding the opportunity that these writers have, because not only do they get to be, if they win, are they given this opportunity, both the illustrators and writers, to be in the book and be part of a New York Times bestseller, but also the chance to come and learn as well as accept their award. That's pretty fun.
It's
and
very,
you
very
must
fun.
feel really great about that experience of watching new people as they launch their career.
Well, the legacy of this thing is to provide that means. So to be able to accomplish that and get the writers and the artists the ability to launch a career. So now we've got several New York Times best-selling authors who have spun off from this contest as winners, and that's one thing we're very, very excited about. That we're able to do that and continue to do that. And now a person who's not just even a winner, but someone who's a finalist can put that into their pitch letter and will sell a story.
Wow.
Just because of what they have to go through to make it up to that level of being a finalist or a winner of Writers of the Future. With entries from over 160 countries, it's seriously, it's the biggest writing competition of its type in the world.
Well, to find out more, you can of course go to Comic-Con this weekend and speak right to John Goodwin and the other folks from Galaxy Press. Of course, you can go online as well and enter there.
Writersofthefuture.com is where Writers of the Future is to be able to find out about that, and also galaxypress.com to find out about how to get your copies.
Thank you so very much, John Goodwin, Galaxy Press. We will see you at Comic-Con. For all of us here at the Mountain Morning Show, thank you so very much for tuning in today. We'll see you tomorrow from 7 to 11 right here on Park City Television.